Hello and welcome to the first Real Deal episode of 2012. I'm your host, Stephanie Bristow. While we're very excited for the year ahead, we would like to use tonight to formally put 2011 behind us. After all, it was a whirlwind year. Women dominated at the box office with hits like Bridesmaids and The Help. Two and a Half Men remained the top sitcom even after the loss of its biggest star. And we saw the return of the silent film with the critically acclaimed The Artist. So let's get started with our year in review. Here with the biggest Hollywood headlines of 2011 is Julia Ritchie. Take it away, Julia.
Last July, the world saw the end of the beloved Harry Potter movie franchise with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. The final installment was the top earner at the box office for 2011, and the entire film series has earned more than $1.3 billion worldwide. Although the film is a favorite among fans, Warner Bros. is relentlessly campaigning for Academy Award consideration. We also said a slight farewell to two television icons, Oprah Winfrey and Regis Philbin. Oprah ended her daytime TV show last May after 25 years on the air, and her final season was her biggest one yet. For the season premiere, she told her studio audience she was sending them on an all-expense-paid trip to Australia. Also, for the first time ever, she had two Favorite Things episodes. Although Oprah has ended her show, she is still making her mark on television with her new cable network, OWN. Last November, Regis Philbin retired from the morning show Live with Regis and Kelly after co-hosting for 28 years. Philbin's television career has spanned more than 50 years and holds the world record for the most hours spent on television with nearly 17,000. Philbin said that although he had left the show, he is not retiring from show business. Since his departure, critics have questioned the future of Live with Kelly. Ratings have dropped by 35%, and the search for a replacement co-host continues. And of course, this list would not be complete without Charlie Sheen. Sheen was fired from Two and a Half Men last March after a long and public dispute with producer Chuck Lorre. Sheen's firing from the popular sitcom raised many questions as to who would replace him on the show. After much speculation over a casting decision, producers chose Ashton Kutcher to replace Sheen. The much-anticipated Season 9 premiere introducing Kutcher raked in the show's largest audience ever, but since then, ratings have slowly declined. That's it for 2011's Hollywood headlines. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Julia. 2011 wasn't just a big year for film and television. The music industry had its share of top stories as well. Here with more is Denny Sullivan. Denny?
2011 was undeniably a huge year for music. The Billboard charts accumulated their 1,000th number one single thanks to Lady Gaga. Album sales rose for the first time since 2004. Upsets at the Grammys brought recognition to artists outside of the mainstream like Arcade Fire and Esperanza Spalding, and U2 completed the largest and most profitable concert tour of all time. However, there are two stories that shine above the rest. Adele had her best year yet. The British singer-songwriter had two consecutive number one hits, became the first artist in Nielsen history to have the top album, song, and video of the year, sold twice the amount of albums as the runner-up for the year, headlined a completely sold-out North American tour, and her first single, Rolling in the Deep, sold more digital copies in a single year than any previous song in United States history. For her efforts, she has been honored with 6 Grammy nominations, including Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best Pop Solo Performance. Whether you love her or hate her, you can surely appreciate what she represents as an artist. Adele surged to the top of the charts without using provocative clothing or musical gimmicks to garner her success. She let her talent speak, or should I say sing, for itself. In an era overwhelmingly dominated by auto-tuned acts, Adele proved that there is still a place for talented individuals in our collective conscious. She is the figurehead for the growing trend back towards actual talent and not machines. Ironically, the second biggest story of the year is all about machines. Dubstep became a musical force last year. While it has been gaining popularity in Europe for a while now, 2011 will be remembered as the year dubstep became mainstream. Big artists such as Britney Spears, Korn, and Flo Rida have all begun incorporating dubstep components into their work. A new crop of celebrities has risen into notoriety, but none more so than Skrillex. Besides touring for most of the year, this DJ made the history books by becoming the first electronica artist to be nominated for a Grammy in the Best New Artist category. So what exactly does this mean for the music industry? Well, this wub-wub genre is being regarded as a legitimate musical presence for the very first time. Don't expect it to fade away, but to drop the bass harder than ever before. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Denny. When we return, Kaylee Russell will fill us in on the year's biggest movie trend, and Morgan Stair will count down 2011's breakout stars. Don't go anywhere.
You are infallible, untouchable, unlovable.
Ow! Well, you're breaking my hair!
The four of us are all that remains of the IMF. No safe house, no support or extraction.
In a special limited engagement, the Disney classic returns to the big screen.
I was hoping you understand its family. Maybe we could work something out.
I'll give you 2 weeks. If not, I'm gonna come after the both of you. I'll come asking your wife for it, your kid.
You think you're the only guy with a gun? Could you ever mention my wife and my kid?
Welcome back. She's covered 3D remakes and fairy tales, but what trend has Kaylee Russell crowned the best of 2011? Let's find out. Kaylee?
If you think back to this past summer, you might remember the horde of superhero movies that were released. I can't remember a time where so many superhero films came out over a span of 2 or 3 months. Thor, Captain America, X-Men First Class, The Green Lantern, Green Hornet, and Super were all released in the summer of 2011. Compared to just one superhero movie that came out last summer, which was Iron Man 2, I'd say there has been a huge increase. What made 2011 in particular the year for so many superhero films? Besides the obvious answer that this genre makes money because audiences love ordinary characters with extraordinary gifts, I think there is a bigger reason that goes a little deeper than economics. Superhero movies are based off of comic books. Each superhero has its own comic book series, which means there are several comic books based on that character. So, every comic book movie can easily have a sequel, a trilogy, remakes, what have you. If a superhero movie generates enough interest, you can almost guarantee that there will be a sequel made. For example, a second installment of The Green Lantern is already in the works. Sequels and trilogies keep the superhero trend alive and kicking. Another example for this theory is the Avengers film that is set to be released later this year. This movie combines all of your favorite, or perhaps not so favorite, superheroes like Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, and Captain America. And to further prove my point, in this year and the next, Iron Man 3, The Dark Knight Rises, The Amazing Spider-Man, and Thor 2 will come out in theaters. Comic books offer a goldmine of opportunity for movies. The script is pretty easy to adapt because all of the dialogue and action is already accessible. All that's needed is a promising cast and a few expensive action scenes to make a decent superhero movie. Not a lot of originality needs to go into these kinds of movies. Plus, the fan base is already established before the movie comes out. Comic book fans will want to see their favorite superheroes on the silver screen. These reasons, I believe, is why the superhero trend is so popular and will continue to be popular. Whether or not we have another summer like 2011, where many comic book heroes starred in films, this trend is here to stay.
Thanks, Kaylee. I couldn't agree more. Every year, there are a slew of new faces in the film industry that catch our eyes. Here with his rankings of 2011's most promising new talent is Morgan Stair. Morgan?
Thanks, Stephanie. In 2011, we saw a lot of fresh talent on the silver screen. It's just too bad that they couldn't get their break before this close to the end of the world. These are the top 5 breakout stars from 2011. Number 5, Chris Hemsworth. After being blown to bits in the first 5 minutes of Star Trek in 2009, Hemsworth literally reached deity status last year as the God of Thunder himself in Thor. He now has 5 upcoming movies in the can for 2012, including reprisal of the role of Thor in The Avengers and Snow White and the Huntsman. More like Snow White and the Hunksman, am I right? Number 4, Octavia Spencer. She's not a new face. We've seen her in numerous roles in big films before, like the unforgettable woman in Elevator in Being John Malkovich, and who could forget her dramatic turn as Check-in Girl in Spider-Man. But Spencer broke out in 2011 with her first leading role as Minnie Jackson in The Help. With all the Oscar buzz that's surrounding her this season, her career surely doesn't need any help, am I right? Number 3, Michael Fassbender. Sir Ian McKellen has pretty big shoes to fill, as any Hobbit will probably tell you. But Fassbender made it look easy when he took over the role of Magneto in X-Men First Class, which was a welcome return to form for the franchise after 2 less than stellar installments. Also, Fassbender's portrayal of a sex addict in Shame had critics across America cheering. Those 2 films were enough to land him a role in Ridley Scott's latest installment in the Alien saga, Prometheus, coming out later this year. I guess Michael Fassbender's career is nothing to be ashamed of, am I right? And number 2, Jessica Chastain. She was in several movies last year, including The Help and The Tree of Life, which are both bound to be big winners at this year's Oscars. The stellar year that she had landed her roles in 6 more films at various stages of completion coming out between now and 2013. If Chastain wins Best Actress for her part in The Help, we could really see her career come to life, am I right? And number 1, the kids from Super 8. These youngsters really made J.J. Abrams' homage to classic alien movies of the 80s fun. They had great chemistry with each other and consistently were entertaining to watch. In a world where Disney and Nickelodeon are constantly cranking out multitudes of absolutely terrible child stars, it was nice to finally see a group of kids take the screen and not make me yearn for a vasectomy. These kids will go down in history alongside the Goonies, the Little Rascals, and the Boys from the Sandlot. Talk about a super group of 8-year-olds, am I right? That's it for Top 5. I'm Morgan Stair. Back to you, Stephanie.
Great list, Morgan. Time for another break, but when we come back, we'll hear Ryan Sexton's choice of the year's most overplayed songs, and our Hit or Miss team will give their take on the best and worst movies of 2011. Stick around. And welcome back. Every year, without fail, there are songs that radio DJs just can't seem to stop playing. Whether you're still singing along or you're thinking of investing in earplugs, I think we can all agree that these songs are overplayed. That said, here's Ryan Sexton with this year's most overplayed songs. Ryan?
Every year there is a song that we all embrace as our anthem, a discovery that we soon share together, make our ringtones, put at the top of our playlist. Then finally, we are beaten into submission after hearing it so much that we reject it fully and can never fully enjoy it again until at least 2 years go by. In 2010, it was Kesha's song TikTok that played so frequently that even the mere mention of the title now still makes me cringe. So the question remains, what songs elicit the same reaction from 2011? Last year's most overplayed songs had more variety and, dare I say, talent than ever before. But when looking for overplayed songs, I need to look no further than Adele, the British wonderkind who invaded our airwaves and still hasn't left. Rolling in the Deep and Someone Like You are subtle powerhouses that everyone will agree were the best songs of 2011. But let's face it though, they were played ad nauseum and need to go away for a while. Not to be outdone, there was Katy Perry, whose song Firework rolled over from 2010 and got stronger in rotation throughout 2011. Once Katy took over, her domination of the public was relentless, releasing hit after hit into the repeat cycle. Play her follow-up songs E.T. and Last Friday Night, TGIF, and watches my ears bleed from the oversaturation. Bruno Mars and his song Grenade, a romantic tale that quickly climbed the charts, also joined these ladies. The song gleefully named off all the ways he'd die for the woman he loves, and now describes what I'd rather be doing than have to hear it again. The last song I have to mention is the one that was a hit all year round, catchy and infectious party rock anthem by LMFAO, was so good it never went away. The lyrics tell everyone to have a good time, and I definitely would if this song was retired until 2014. Those are some of my picks for most overplayed songs of 2011.
Thanks, Ryan. Now let's turn our attention to movies. Here is Ben Kramer and Richard Story with a roundup of 2011's best and worst movies in Hit or Miss. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, Stephanie. Welcome back to Hit or Miss for the 2011. I'm Ben, and filling in for Andrew is Richard Story. With the Golden Globes now over and the Oscars coming up, Richard and I will take a look back in 2011 and give you our favorite hits, the misses we would rather leave, and we're looking forward to in 2012. Let's start with our least favorite. Richard?
Thanks, Ben. Now, I'm not really sure what my least favorite would be, but definitely one of the biggest disappointments of the year was 50-50, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen. A movie that was raved and ranted for months before I saw it left me with an empty feeling of discontent. Now, despite the great acting and the dynamite cast, the touching story, it still failed to impress me. Beyond that, the plot was rather thin and predictable. The slow pacing didn't help either, as it took the movie much too long to finally reach its main conflict. And lastly, the resolution was completely unsatisfying. The only change in Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character was his haircut.
Looking back at some of the summer movies that I saw this past year, one movie I wish I hadn't seen was Cowboys and Aliens. Everyone and their dog knew that the title and concept was just stupid, but I couldn't help wonder why Jon Favreau would choose to direct this movie. It's hard for me to say it, but I was really disappointed in Harrison Ford's acting. He either was trying too hard or not enough, because I honestly didn't care what happened to his character. Yeah, the action scenes were kind of cool, but I kept getting distracted by trying to figure out why Daniel Craig was even cast in this movie. And once I realized that there was a storyline involving why there's such a battle between these two races, I knew right away that this movie was trying too hard to be more than just a mindless summer movie. A summer movie that I was proud of was the prequel reboot of X-Men First Class. I was a big fan of the first two films directed by Bryan Singer, and when I heard that he was involved with producing First Class, I felt that same excitement I had for the first two. Combine Singer with the director of Kick-Ass, Matthew Vaughn, and a great ensemble cast with the likes of veteran Kevin Bacon, James McAvoy, and young stars Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, and the breakout of Michael Fassbender, I was thoroughly entertained from start to finish. I thought the friendship between Magneto and Professor X was brilliantly portrayed, and the chemistry between McAvoy and Fassbender was palpable. It's sad that this movie was overshadowed by the two other Marvel movies, Captain America and Thor. But I would agree that X-Men First Class is the one that comes out on top.
I also found a prequel as one of my favorites this summer. The most pleasant surprise for me this year was definitely The Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Seeing this trailer pumped me up for a terrible movie with awesome fighting monkeys, but as I walked away from the screen, I was much more entertained than I had originally expected. Well, for starters, the fighting monkeys were indeed awesome, with some of the best CGI I've ever seen. Absolutely beautiful. Furthermore, the performances by James Franco and John Lithgow were truly remarkable and touching. And finally, the plot progression was very well done. I felt as though it really never dragged on, and it was really well paced throughout. Overall, I'd expected almost nothing from this movie, but was greatly surprised to find one of the most entertaining and exciting movies of the year.
Now, looking ahead to 2012, this year will surely be an improvement to 2011. I've never seen so much anticipation for the movies coming out this year. The one that I'm most excited about is The Hunger Games. Based on the phenomenally popular books trilogy by Suzanne Collins, this movie will feature young stars Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson, as well as Woody Harrelson, Elizabeth Banks, and even Lenny Kravitz. Honestly, I'm looking forward to this new movie franchise that will hopefully fill the void left by Harry Potter.
For me, I'm most anxiously awaiting The Dark Knight Rises. As both a huge Batman and Christopher Nolan fan, very little excites me more than the concluding of this already outstanding trilogy.
This has been a Hit or Miss with Ben and Richard. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, guys. It's time for our last break, but stick around because when we come back, we'll get Paige Ziegler's Best of Bracken pick and my final word. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Several new movies came to Ball State's Bracken Library in 2011, but only one can hold the title of Best of Bracken. Here's Paige Ziegler with her favorite of the year. Paige?
2011 brought us many animated, thrilling, action-packed, and series-ending movies, but only one has stood out from the rest in the comedy genre. Bridesmaids has been one of the best-reviewed movies of the year and is getting much Oscar buzz. With already have won many critics' awards, Bridesmaids is one of the movies up for Writer and Producers Guild of America awards. For those of you who have not seen it, Kristen Wiig plays Annie, who is maid of honor in the wedding for her best friend Lillian, played by Maya Rudolph. Chaos ensues when rivalry between Wiig's character and another bridesmaid, Helen, played by Rose Byrne, try to win over Lillian. Melissa McCarthy adds to the funny bridesmaids alongside Wendy McClendon-Covey and Ellie Kemper. Though the movie is hilarious all around, the part where Wiig's character rolls her car back and forth while doing things against the law to only get the attention of the police officer that she likes had to be my favorite part. I was crying from laughing. I would say that this movie was one of my favorites in 2011 because the other blockbuster hit, The Help, and all leading female casts dominated the box office. It has become the highest-grossing female-driven comedy of all time. So move over Hangover, Bridesmaids reign supreme.
Thanks, Paige. What a great review of 2011. Before we go, I'd like to leave you with my final word from this past year. First, I'd like to look at my top show from this past year. Surprise, surprise. For me, Pretty Little Liars was fantastic. This is confirmed by their most recent win for the People's Choice Awards for Favorite Cable TV Drama. With the recent premiere of Season 3, the suspense for the revelation of A is becoming more and more intense. Now, my top movie choice for the year isn't as easy to choose, but I must say that I was extremely impressed with The Help. Every aspect of this film was moving. The Help tells the story of African-American maids working in Jackson, Mississippi in the early 60s. Emma Stone is one of my favorite actresses and plays the convincing role of an aspiring journalist trying to share the personal stories of these maids with the rest of the country. And in music, I'm going to have to go with Rihanna's We Found Love. The song premiered on September 22nd, 2011 in the UK and reached #1 in its 6th week on the Billboard Hot 100. This song was Rihanna's 11th #1 single. That does it for me and for all of us at The Real Deal. Thanks for sticking around and reviewing the best of 2011. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on all things entertainment. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. I'm Stephanie Bristow. Have a great night.
We're given hand-me-down planes,
We're losing them! I feel like I'm flying my grandfather's Buick.
hoping that we would just limp along and go away. We will not go away. Right like that.
Boom! We stand and we fight.
You can tell me right now why you sold me out, or you can tell me in 10 minutes when I have my hands around your throat.
Haywire.
I've never done a woman before. You shouldn't think of her as being a woman.